Hello and welcome to duel number 1 from the Daytona International Speedway. Greg Biffle is going to lead us to the green in this one by virtue of winning the pole for this Sunday's Daytona 500. And now in the duels, if you are unfamiliar, which all of you should be familiar with them, we have our go or go home cars. In this duel, of the guys that qualified in on speed are Sterling Marlin and Dale Jarrett, so they don't have anything to worry about. So now the rest of these open cars that are racing for a spot in the Daytona 500 are David Ruderman, Mike Skinner, Paul Menard, Ward Burton, Mike Wallace, Kenny Wallace, Kevin LePage, Stanton Barrett, Frank Kimmel, Brandon Witt, Kyle Petty, and Kyle Petty and Tony Raines are not racing to get in. It's Witt, Kimmel, Barrett, LePage, Mike and Kenny Wallace, Ward Burton, Paul Menard, Skinner, and Ruderman. So with that out of the way, let's go through our starting grid. On the pole, you have Greg Biffle next to Carl Edwards, and behind them you have Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. Casey Kane and Kurt Busch, your class winner, make up row number 3. And behind them you have Mark Martin, who barely lost the 500 in 2007, to Kevin Harvick and Jamie McMurray next to him. Kyle Busch, who had a lot of the class last time out, starts in 9th next to Bobby Owani, who lines up in 10th. Sterling Marlin, who we talked about timing in on speed, lines up next to Clint Boyer. And Dale Jarrett, who also timed it on speed, lines up next to David Gillen. The highest two open cars as of right now, side by side, with David Ruderman and Mike Skinner, make up row number 7, with Reed Sorensen and Scott Riggs behind them. Paul Menard trying to get his DEI number 15 into the field. He lines up next to Kenny Schrader in the Wood Bros entry. Ward Burton in the Morgan McClure car trying to race his way in the 2002 Daytona 500 winner. He lines up next to David Stremme, Robbie Gordon, and Mike Wallace, another one of these cars that needs to go or go home. He lines up in row number 12. Behind them is two more open cars, Kenny Wallace and Kevin LePage. Stanton Barrett in the Rick Ware car next to Frank Kimmel, the ARCA driver, in the fast track entry. Brandon Witt for Kirk Shellardine's team next to Kyle Petty, and Tony Raines rounds out the field. Now without further ado, let's go down trackside to get the command to fire up the engines for this first of two duels.
Driver cars.
Hang on, we'll get it eventually.
Drivers.
Here we go.
Drivers, start your engines.
And the engines are fired up for this first duel. As the field rolls off pit road, everyone seems to be having everything go pretty well so far. But what are the keys to this race? It is a 32-lap event. No caution breaks like we saw in the Clash. And it's just pretty much hard racing all the way through. Pit stops are not expected unless you get into an accident, which none of these guys want to. This is their Daytona car. They will go to the back of the field if they make the race, if they have to go to a backup for the 500. But right now, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards are going to be the forward 1-2 punch here at the front of the field, trying to get a dual win for Jack Roush. And remember, the entire top 10 gets points, so even if you don't win, there is still an incentive for points, because these points can carry you into the chase. That 1 point can carry you to being in the postseason. As they come around turn 3 and 4 to the green flag for the first time tonight. Greg Biffle on the inside, Carl Edwards on the outside. Here we go, pace car is going to make a hard left for pit lane here off turn number 4. And we are ready to go racing, everyone on their feet. Here we go. Biffle on the inside, Edwards on the outside. Green flag in the air, we are racing in duel number 1 at Daytona. And Edwards got a slightly better start than Greg Biffle on that 16 car as the field roars the light as they head for turn number 1. And if you're an open car, what do you do? Do you go try to control that battle? Or do you drop to the back and avoid any calamity? As Gordon makes a move inside on Greg Biffle for the lead off turn 2. Edwards trying to help his teammate. Not much of a pack formation right now, as everyone still isn't at their full speed yet. As now Gordon now with the lead on the inside. He's going to try to lead lap number 1 here at Daytona. And it's going to be Jeff Gordon who leads us to the line. He's going to lead lap 1 of the duel. And you see some of these guys in the back broken up. These are some of your open entries. Some of the cars that don't need to be losing the draft right now this early, but some of them just aren't quick enough to keep up in the pack. Like the 72 of Brandon Witt. But they're still going to try to make the 500. You never know what can happen. There could be a massive wreck that takes out all of your competition. That actually happened at some of the test runs I did. Since obviously I test the track and cars before each race. But now, Mark Martin is going to lead the race with Kyle Busch on his inside. And obviously, what do? Do you even think about forming a third line yet? Well, Kyle Busch might make some people think about it. They're going to be 3 wide for the race lead off turn 2. Busch just got a little loose there in the middle of the corner. Busch's Hendrick teammate Jeff Gordon thought about going low to help him out, decided not to, decides to stay committed to Mark Martin, who is going to now be clear of the pack as they head through turn 3 and 4. And obviously, how quickly do you want to go? Because a bunch of these guys, all the locked in guys, they're not trying to tear up their car and go to the back for the 500 and risk getting caught up in an early wreck in that one. But Clint Boyer's going to try to make the bottom lane work 3 wide. And now he goes to the middle. Clint Boyer blocking Kyle Busch. Marlin looks down low on Jarrett. He's going to block him all the way to the yellow line. The inside lane has the most help. The middle lane has no help. Paul Menard thinks about making it 3 wide. Martin still controlling this. That inside lane got a little stacked up there with the block by Dale Jarrett in 1 and 2, but they're starting to form back up here for 3 and 4. And obviously, you're also racing for a better starting spot unless you're on the front row. So everyone except Greg Biffle is racing to better their starting position, as some of these guys are just racing to even make the show. We're on lap 5, and they're racing like it's lap 25 here at Daytona. Martin still with the lead, clear of everyone. He can block wherever he wants, but he's got to do it quick because Gordon's got to run up high with help from Kurt Busch and Greg Biffle, who started on pole, hasn't even had a single lap yet tonight. Skinner has dropped to the back. You saw him trying to go with that inside lane but had no help. And that's one of the bad things about this, is if you have no help, you're gonna go backwards. Now Boyer trying to make the middle lane work. He's got a bit more help. Menard went up there, Robbie Gordon went up there. But here comes David Ruderman, Kenny Wallace, and Paul Menard are the current cars transferring into the Daytona 500 currently, but how long will that last for? Boyer up to block on Mark Martin. Still 3 wide further back. How about Dale Jarrett making the inside lane work with help from Marlin in the 14? Jarrett's drifting up the hill a little bit in the corner, and that's going to allow the 14 to get a little bit of clean air on that nose. Prevents the engine on the 14 car from overheating, but I don't think the 44 just has that pace down the straightaway to lead that line. They're going to be 4 wide now. Sterling Marlin's going to leave Dale Jarrett out to dry. They're going to be 4 wide for second, just for a brief moment. And I would not like the look of that if I was anyone behind this, including the drivers in the 4 wide situation. Marlin looked to be backing up a little bit to let the 44 car of Jarrett back in line. Still 4 wide for second. And it can't work forever, so they gotta sort this out. But these cars aren't very wide bodied, so they can handle 4 wide for a good amount of time. But Sterling Marlin's going to go onto the apron here. He might not be able to re-enter safely. Here we go. There they go. Crashing in turn 1. You knew it wouldn't last forever. Gordon in the wall. Johnson. Jarrett. Brandon Witt. Kimmel. Kurt Busch upside down. Your class winner. And that is several open cars in the wall with damage here early in this first duel. Stanton Barrett here on the apron. The 72 Brandon Witt with damage. It's not what we want to see for any of those open teams. Stanton Barrett's gotten a tow back to the pit lane. Kurt Busch is rolling, but with significant damage. He'll be out of this one. They're still trying to wad it up here, coming back to the caution. I think Kevin Page has a little bit of damage. But Kyle Busch is your leader. Let's take a look at what happened. So I was telling you guys, you knew it wasn't going to last. Sterling Marlin got pushed onto the apron of the racetrack. Here, entering turn 1, you can see it here from our helicopter view. And he thinks he can re-enter. He thinks he's got it right, but no, he slides up the track. That collects Johnson and Gordon and Jarrett. Well, Page gets a piece of Kurt Busch, and then nowhere to go for Ward Burton and the 4. He gets collected. Able to get back rolling, I believe. Maybe? Yeah, he was, because you see the 72 of Brandon Witt straightening him out. So let's take a look at the onboard of Kurt Busch and the 2 car who took a wild ride during that one, your class winner. That hit from Stanton Barrett that got him on the little transition from the banking to the apron really rolled him over. But Kurt Busch obviously out of the race as expected. Jimmy Johnson in the pits, Sterling Marlin, Ward Burton, Kenny Wallace, Kevin Page, Brandon Witt coming in for some damage repair. I don't know how fixed up it'll be. You see Frank Kimmel in the 71. Current did not pit to fix his damage. But as it stands, Paul Menard and David Ruderman will be in the 500. Mike Wallace currently the first car out of the Daytona 500. There's Sterling re-entering the racetrack. Kenny Wallace, Brandon Witt. Dale Jarrett is out of the race. He has called it quits on the night. And he's thankful that he locked in on qualifying, but he will be to the rear in the race itself. Gordon got back on the racetrack. So did Stanton Barrett. So we'll see how those two perform. Gordon still has a good chunk of damage on the side of his car, so let's see how quick that 24 can truly be. And we are going to go green with about 20 laps to go in this duel. Now, if you're one of these guys remaining, do you be more cautious after what happened, or do you go pedal to the metal? Balls to the wall here. Green flag back in the air. Kyle Busch did not get as good of a restart as Clint Boyer in the 07 did, so that's going to allow Reed Sorensen to jump inside on him. Meanwhile, it looks like the 71 of Kimmel doesn't have much pace. He's going to get passed by the 14 and the 78, who are trying, the 78 especially, trying to stay alive in this fight for a spot in the Daytona 500. He's going to get clear of the 71. Now, obviously, some cars in this pack now are not as fast as the other cars out here. So you will see some drivers you wouldn't expect up here, like the 09 car, like the 23 car for Bill Davis. But I think the 71 also may still be alive in this fight. He's not letting the 78 get away. We got Paul Menard in the open car going for the lead against Clint Boyer in the 07. Menard trying to clear with help from Scott Riggs. Tony Raines making a move down low. He's trying to gain a few positions on the starting grid for the race. Scott Riggs thought about blocking that bottom lane. Can't quite get past Paul Menard though. Menard leads the lap over Boyer. And in this lead pack, there's still a handful of open cars, so you gotta still keep an eye on that. You got Skinner, you got Mike Wallace, you got Kenny Wallace just barely at the back of this pack, though he may be losing the draft now. So the 78 may be falling out of this pack. But right now the transfer positions would go to Paul Menard and David Ruderman. But here comes Mike Wallace in the 09 on the bottom. And they're going to be 4 wide again. They learned absolutely nothing from that last caution. They want to go do it again. And the 78 is just barely alive in this draft. How about that 14 car being involved in that wreck? Now he's got a quick little piece. Kevin LePage going pretty slowly. He might get called off the track by NASCAR for not meeting minimum speed. They're going to be 4 wide for the lead down the back straightaway meanwhile. Greg Biffle to the inside on Paul Menard and Bobby Labonte, but can Robbie Gordon give a good enough push? Or will Labonte get the opportunity to block low? No, they're going to be 4 wide for the race lead. 4 wide, multiple rows deep potentially. Nope, it's just going to be the first 2 rows. Boyer still getting a push up top. Oh, they're going to crash! Wrecking again in the tri-oval. Kenny Wallace just nailed into the side of Starling. Oh, we still got cars piling into it, I think. David Ruderman, Frank Kimmel involved. Ken Schrader. Brandon Witt, I think, was in it. Kyle Busch in the 5 with some damage. He's caught up in it. Kenny Wallace in the 78. Mike Skinner in the 73, in the 23, sorry, I think is involved. Man, couldn't last that long. The 4 wide never lasts long here at Daytona, and we'll take a look at what happened. So Tony Raines got into the 10 of Scott Riggs, and I think Kenny Wallace nailed into the back of someone, and then they're still piling in. Schrader got damaged, Kimmel got damaged as well, and then everyone else is just checking up, backing it down, trying to keep it together. Jeff Gordon will be the free pass car under this caution flag. I don't think everyone is too damaged though. Like, I don't think Ruderman's gonna have his night ruined by this. Let's take a look at it again. Yeah, so Reigns in the middle, 4 wide. He's thinking, okay, I can clear up on Scott Riggs right here. Little does he know. And then bam, Kyle Busch gets into it, David Ruderman. Mike Wallace squeaks through that. McMurray tried to get through, nailed by Sterling Marlin. He goes up into the wall hard. And a Kenny Wallace with damage as well. So, as we were talking about that, multiple cars coming off pit road. Scott Riggs, McMurray, Kenny Wallace, Marlin with damage. Frank Kimmel is out of the race, so he will not make the Daytona 500. Tony Raines is out. Kenny Schrader, Kyle Busch, Reed Sorensen are also out of this race. And Paul Menard, who didn't even make this race on time during qualifying, currently in the Daytona 500, and then you gotta go all the way back to 10th place for your current transfer car of Mike Wallace. But it's not over yet. Never is. So I think we're going to get the 1 to go signal this time. Yep, so Gordon's dropping to the back. Here we come. Green flag back in the air. Mike Wallace again does not get a very good restart here as they head for turn 1 and 2. And Ruderman crucially gets by the very slow 34 of Kevin LePage. That may help his chances of making this 500. But Riggs and Gordon drafting behind him, trying to get by the 00 car, can't quite do it. Brandon Witt's now going to get a chance to be in this pack. Can he make a run at it? And we got a change in the transfer spot. That's the 23 of Mike Skinner into the transfer now. Johnson not able to keep up with this pack either right now. Brandon Witt still trying to stay in it. But I think it's going to be down to this 09 and the 23 car of Mike Wallace and Mike Skinner, the Mike and Mike show. And we'll keep an eye on that, because they both could get in, because Paul Menard's still up here. And you don't know if he could get in the wreck. We don't know if they're done wrecking tonight. Three wide for the race lead. You think they're going to understand that 4 wide can't work for long now, or are they still going to try it? We got a second pack built up here as well. They're going to catch Brandon Witt soon, but I don't think they're quick enough to catch this lead group. Now as they run down the back straightaway, it's Casey Kane with the lead ahead of Gilliland, ahead of Robbie Gordon and Carl Edwards and Greg Biffle. They did not learn a single thing. 4 wide once again for just a split moment. Carl Edwards and David Gilliland are going for the lead now. They settled that one out quickly though as Gilliland leads the middle lane ahead of Robbie Gordon. Now he's going to think about blocking the inside lane with Carl Edwards leading that currently. Can't make it happen. Meanwhile, back at the transfer, Wallace and pushing Skinner. Menard still with the first transfer position. And in this next duel, Bill Elliott has the past champion provisional if he needs to use it. So if he can't race his way in, every open car in that duel is just racing for 1 spot. Yes, I did the research for this race. Bill Elliott would have a past champion provisional if he couldn't make this race. As they run 3 wide through turn 3 and 4. Kane on the outside. Then you have Gillen middle, Edwards bottom. It's less than 10 laps to go in this duel. And I don't expect them to catch any lap traffic. Wallace knows he needs to go. He jumps up to the top side, trying to find a way past the 23 of Mike Skinner. The Bill Davis car versus the Phoenix Racing entry. Who you got? Who's going to make the Daytona 500? Menard still making progress in the middle now, trying to get away from his competition to make this Daytona 500 as they run 3 by 3 down the front straightaway here. Kane still trying to hang on to the lead, but it's Gillen who leads them out front. Gillen and Kane side by side still. Here comes Edwards on the bottom, but his help is fizzling out quickly. Martin's not very committed right now. We are side by side for the transfer position. Momentarily, they may still be side by side. The 09 of Mike Wallace, the 23 of Mike Skinner. Skinner's able to get more of a run. He's going to dive 3 wide on Mike Wallace and Mark Martin. Now Wallace is going to go follow the 23 down low. But back to the stripe. Still side by side. Gillen has been able to clear Casey Kane. Now it's Robbie Gordon looking low. And Paul Menard's not quite done yet either. And the 09 car is trying to get clear of the 01 so he can see what he can do with this 23 car again. He's going to look to the top. Now stay in the middle. Menard with a run through the middle lane. Here comes Paul Menard in the 15s to the inside for the race lead. With help from Clint Boyer and David Stremme. Now Wallace trying to look low on the 23, trying to build up any run he can. Inside goes the 09 on the 23 of Mike Skinner, but he's in that inside lane that doesn't have much help right now as Kyle Petty starts to fade high. But Menard and Boyer thought about going low. That may help this bottom lane out some. It does. Transfer position changes to the 09 of Mike Wallace now. Wallace ahead of Skinner, but Skinner's to that right rear quarter. He almost gets back by the 09. Can't quite do it though. And now Boyer, Menard, side by side for the lead. Boyer can't clear him though. Menard's going to get the help from the top. Boyer has no help in the middle currently other than David Stremme, who isn't very close to him. But here comes Menard. Right to the outside of Clint Boyer. Boyer led them at the stripe. Skinner now trying to make the move on the outside of Mike Wallace for the transfer position. And who do you have at home? Do you have Skinner or Wallace making this race? Boyer may get put in the middle, 3 wide, as Menard gets a big push from Robbie Gordon on the top side. And Menard wants the 10 bonus points and the 3rd place starting spot for the Daytona 500. He didn't even know if he was going to make the race when he started this tonight. Now he thinks that he can go win the duel across the stripe. It's Menard who leads the lap that time. 3 laps to go, 9/1000th of a second separated them. And the 23 has jumped in line behind the 09 of Mike Wallace. Menard now starting to lose a little bit of ground as Boyer goes to the middle. Can Boyer clear Paul Menard and control this race? Yes, he can. Clint Boyer to the race lead. But Menard's getting the push. Can't quite clear on Stremme yet. But the inside's making progress. Now does Menard have to worry about the 09 and the 23, who are both on this inside lane? And when does the 23 go to pass the 09? If he can. Because they're pretty gridlocked right now. 2 laps to go in the duel. It's now or never if you want to make the Daytona 500. if you're Mike Wallace and Mike Skinner. Menard still has the first transfer. That's been established. But here comes that bottom lane, the top losing a little bit of their momentum. Boyer still with the lead as they head down the back straightaway. Edwards with no help down low. Can Skinner or Wallace change that? And now Kyle Petty is going to make Edwards have to run the middle. But he's going to get split. Menard back to the bottom on Clint Boyer as they come to the white flag. And Skinner can't build much of a run on Mike Wallace. White flag though, Skinner's looking to the outside, white flag. Boyer and Menard tied at the line. But it gave Clint Boyer the lead of the race on that lap. Wallace now with the 23 outside of him. He's going to go up the block. Can Skinner get by? He's going to have maybe one more shot into turn 3 to make this Daytona 500. Menard with no help down low, trying to get as much of a draft as he can from the 40 of David Stremme. Here we come through turn 3 and 4 for the final time tonight. Skinner looking low on Wallace. Wallace can't block. Skinner's going to be side by side with Wallace as they come to the checkered flag. Boyer's going to win the race, but who's going to get the transfer? It's going to be Mike Skinner, I think, who gets the transfer. I think that the 23 of Skinner may have gotten him at the line, but I'm not completely sure. Look how close this is. Mike Skinner has made the Daytona 500 by 7 1/1000ths of a second over Mike Wallace. Unreal, all of that, and it comes down to the final straightaway. Mike Wallace will not make the 2007 Daytona 500, and it will instead be the other Mike Skinner. And just take a look at this. It's just incredible how they did that. Let's ride on board with Mike Skinner to see how that happened. Because he made the move right there in 3 and 4. And he had no help at all. Let's go a little further back. But let's watch the outside view first. See, he makes... We selected the wrong camera angle. Look at this. He goes down low. Wallace tries to block, but can't get there. That kills the 09's momentum. 23 is the better run, and I thought that the 09 was coming back here. And the 09 was actually still ahead, but the 23 had the better run for the trail. Nabbed him at the line. Incredible. And how much does it mean to be in the 500? I think you just witnessed that. Let's take an onboard run with the 03 23 of Mike Skinner once again before we get into Clint Boyer's celebration for winning the duel. Yeah, the 09 actually started to pull back ahead here. As they came to the checkered flag, it wasn't enough, and it was Skinner who hangs on to it. But it's Boyer who wins the duel over Robbie Gordon and Paul Menard, who let's not forget to talk about him. Paul Menard also makes the Daytona 500, so it's Menard and Skinner who make it from this first duel. And now let's get a look at these celebrations for Clint Boyer.